Call the meeting to order. I will have a moment of a silent prayer. All right. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call, Mrs. Franks.
Mayor Kindle,
Present.
Councilwoman Costantino,
Present.
Councilman Jenny,
Here.
Councilwoman Pies,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sawicki,
Here.
Councilwoman Williams is absent tonight, Councilman Toussaint,
Present.
Acting City Manager Szymanski,
Here.
City Attorney Diwali.
Here.
Okay,
I need a motion to excuse.
Madam Mayor,
Okay.
I'll make the motion to excuse Council Member Williams. Thank you.
Support.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now we'll have a presentation from our state senator, Adam Hollier. And before we do that, I want to say hello to our former city council person, Ernestine Lyons, who's in the audience tonight. And so, Mr. Senator Hollier, would you step to the microphone, please?
Thank you for having me. She's going to be quiet, I promise. She's doing an excellent job.
Oh, she's busy. She's adjusted to your meetings.
She is. So this is my 4-year-old daughter, Lillian. She was like, Daddy, we need to have Daddy-Daughter Day. And I was like, I have a meeting. She's like, I can go to a meeting. So
All
there
right.
she is doing things early. I appreciate the opportunity to come back to you. I know it's been a long time. We all miss each other seeing during pandemic, but I'm grateful that you allowed me to come and give you a presentation. We are currently on legislative break as of last week, and this week we'll be back in full session next week. The state legislature is actually starting to move some of the significant ARPA dollars that have come out. And so as we look at that, we did one big tranche right before we left, but we have probably 1 or 2 more coming forward. So if there are particular things that the city needs, please let me know so that we can work to get those things included. None of those were included in this most recent, in the last 2. The last one was primarily a water supplemental. And so in there, we did significant funding to remove lead pipes from across the state. So the federal government allocated about $2 billion to the state of Michigan to do that, and we pushed out a significant portion of those dollars into spaces to address some of our aging water infrastructure. And so all of the significant number of those dollars will be able to be bid on by the city. So if you have any issues with that, please let me know. We can work on getting those with Eagles on the drinking water grants and the things like that. It was something that I worked really hard to make sure was included. And I'm glad to see that it actually was. We also did some parks and greenway spaces, and so a number of those dollars will also be up for competitive bids. Well, not competitive bids. You can bid for it. It's not necessarily to say that it's competitive. It's just it was not allocated, and so working with the department, you can go in and put in the appropriate amount of presentations, and I'm happy to work with you on those. And so we adjusted a number of the thresholds to ensure that communities like Harper Woods would be eligible for some of these dollars. Too often in our state budget, the population threshold was designed for rural communities, and so it's been a priority of mine since serving in the legislature to adjust all of those thresholds up to ensure that communities like yourselves are included. And so you've always been the barometer on the floor of things like that. And so we've been able to adjust a number of those kind of things to make you more eligible for roadway funding, for some of the parks programs, and some of the other things that exist in the space. I'd also love to give you a quick update on redistricting. I know it has been an incredibly complicated and cumbersome project, and as grateful as many of us are that we have a Citizens Independent Redistricting Commission, democracy is ugly and it's difficult, and regular people do not make the kind of decisions that we would expect professionals to do. And so They had a criteria. I think they did the very best that they absolutely could with the advice that they were given. Their expert gave them some very poor advice early, and he did not change it with enough time for them to make the kind of changes that you see. Communities like Harper Woods have been most disproportionately impacted by that, by severing you from neighbors in Detroit and pushing you out into a district in the
Right.
state Senate that goes all the way into I think you all are in 3 counties, but there was a draw where you were in 4 counties, and I complained real hard about that, and we didn't get you in the a reasonable space, but you got drawn into what they were calling a lake district because they felt like you had coastal ambitions, or you're all chilling out on your boats. I don't have a boat, so I don't know about that boat life, but that was the reason that you got drawn in that way. There were a number of lawsuits that were filed. All of them have been settled to this point. None of them had a particularly high likelihood of getting passed. There is still one other group, to include the Council of Baptist Pastors and the Detroit branch of NAACP, that is still working on a legal challenge. It is unlikely that that will have any impact on this year's maps. But what we have seen across the country is when districts are drawn in such a way that they so negatively disadvantage minority groups, like we expect these to, for them to get a mid-year draw. And you've seen that in North Carolina, you've seen it in California, you've seen it in Ohio, and you've seen it in Texas. And so there's certainly the likelihood that that could happen. In the interim, it's really important that as we look forward into this election space, that people have good understanding. I also sit on the Joint Committee of Administrative Rules, which is by far the most boring committee that you could be on in Lansing. It meets very infrequently. I think we've met 3 times this session. But our most recent meeting was highly impactful and incredibly overly politicized. The Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, or JCAR as we call it, is usually just the legislature has an opportunity to say, to thumbs down a rule that a department makes. It can't rewrite it, can't redraw. We can just say, hey, we would prefer if you would make an adjustment. And the Secretary of State, you'll remember at the beginning of the pandemic, issued a series of opinions on how the absentee process or the vote by mail process should be done. Simple things like, if you sign your name, we should believe that you signed your name, right? So I don't know how many of you have ever written your name 5 times in a row, but it does not look the same every single time. But so she was like, hey, if the councilman writes his name and says, I am who I say I am, we should just believe him. There were a number of folks who do not believe that that is the case and came to push back against that idea. It was especially ironic because one of them's handwriting was so poor that she was mistaken for a man because of the way her name was read, and she starts her comments with, no worries, I have really bad handwriting. I'm like, lady, this is, the whole point of this is that we should recognize that. And so your city clerk will have a variety of challenges from people as they look to invalidate or cause doubt in your elections process. We know that the last election was the most secure election that we've ever seen. There have been no credible signs of any malfeasance or issues. But know that there are groups now who are going to be pushing for higher spaces. In doing that, we'll be looking at your poll books more aggressively. We'll be recruiting more challengers in your space. So the Secretary of State's office will continue to operate under the guidance that they have given. And it is our understanding, the directive, that you should continue to operate based on the Secretary of State's guidance, even though this rulemaking process was a little bit confusing and convoluted. And we're talking about very simple stuff like signature verification, like the amount of time necessary to give people notice if your ballot came back, if you failed to apply a signature, or things like that, if you move precinct to precinct, things like that that are just important for your residents. So it'll be really important this year that communities like yours really have robust, not just get out the vote campaigns, but educational campaigns about how to vote by mail, because this year there will be more people who are looking to challenge the validity of your space. So if you want more information about that, please let me know. It's the kind of thing that I've been working on with the Secretary of State over the last couple years to make sure that the process continues to move smoothly. I know that last time I was here, maybe not last time, but one of the times I was here, we were talking about recycling, Councilman, as we were talking about that. And so there's active negotiations, probably the closest that we've ever been, on changes to the bottle bill. And so right now, Michigan, it has the highest deposit on any bottle of any state in the country. You'll remember Seinfeld jokes and things like that. But there is, for the first time, pretty close negotiations to expand that bottle bill, not to include liquor, but to include some beers and wines, but most importantly, to allow you to return to any location. So right now, if you buy something, say for example, from Costco or Whole Foods, and the brand is only sold at one of those locations, you can't take it to your local grocery store, you can't take it to Meijer and those kind of things. One of the changes would allow you to take it back anywhere. And so we're hoping that this will continue to help facilitate a higher recycling rate, but also to allow for some additional changes in how recycling is done in local communities. And so one of the reasons that is happening is because people did not return their bottles during the pandemic, right? So all of you who had bottles that you were like, I'm barely going to the grocery store, I'm not going to the store with my, a lot of people threw those things away, or they just did general recycling. And that increased the amount in the escheats. And so the escheats is a fancy version of all the uncollected dollars. Those uncollected dollars are used for hazardous waste cleanup spaces. And so for the first time in 30 years, there is this additional pool of money that can be used to clean up spaces. So you'll see Eagle doing a little bit more aggressive cleanup of some of the hazardous waste, some of the orphan sites, some of the things like that. So you'll remember the green ooze that was on 696 and over near Woodbridge. That's one of the funding sources for those kind of things. Similarly, so then as we talk about those kind of things, there continue to be a variety of legislative pushes over the summer. You should expect that very little controversial things will happen between now and August and November. And so we are, there will be a fairly robust lame duck session, but over the summer, very few controversial things are going to happen. So I know there have been concerns about the short-term rental things, a variety of other things. It's very unlikely that any of those things will move this summer, if they move at all. As we talk about some of these other spaces, there are going to be a lot of discussions community-wide about how we address blight and deal with some of those kind of things. And so there's certainly going to be, and continue to be, asked for additional housing funding. It's something that I've been kind of spearheading the discussion about on how we address some of the housing concerns, because we know that it is increasingly difficult to find housing in the state, right? So we had significant housing dollars that were just pushed out in this last supplemental. So folks who are having issues with those, your local housing coalition will now have a lot more dollars to help prevent foreclosure. That'll be available for renters. It'll be available for folks who say have an excess water bill or those kind of things that might help them stay or not stay in their home. Again, Wayne County extended the foreclosure moratorium, and there are additional state programs that we have to address those. So I put them out on my website. We'll be happy to share if you have any questions about those kind of things as well. Also very excited about the work that we were able to get done on the fire grant. So, again, very grateful to be able to partner with my colleague from Taylor. I introduced the companion bill in the state Senate and got, all but 4 or 5 state senators to co-sponsor that resolution and was able to move through the Senate really quickly and efficiently. But we recognize that it does not address the overall challenge that communities the size of Harper Woods have from a revenue sharing standpoint. So this year we increased revenue sharing by a significant portion, the largest that we've done in the last 10 years, to include every community over the space. And so that is 2 consecutive budgets of revenue sharing increases, with the expectation in the governor's executive recommendation that revenue sharing again increase. And so we're talking about an additional $1.7 million that'll be coming this year. And as we talk about increases to the school aid fund, it'll also be the first time that we've addressed equitable funding. So too often we talk about even funding. And so they say, well, a community like the city of Detroit is receiving, and people will say, hey, well, the city of Detroit gets more money than any other district. And if you look at all the different pots, some of that is true, but it's a lot more expensive to educate a child in one district versus another. And you all see exactly that in Harper Woods, where you have to provide a higher level of transportation, where you have to provide a different level of services and those kind of things. And so this budget is the first budget that the legislature has recognized that it is not the same to educate a child from Grosse Pointe, for example, whose got two parents at home who are both college educated and they make $250,000 each, versus someone who is a new American whose parents are learning English for the first time, can't support that space. And so recognizing that there is a diversity across the city, across the state, across the district, and really prioritizing ensuring that communities like yours are better advantaged from some of these programs. So I think that's all that I was supposed to talk about. I'm happy to answer any questions or those kind of things. I don't want to get too wordy. And again, now that you're back in person, I'm happy to come back whenever there's a desire.
Okay, if there's any questions on the council, if anyone in the audience have a question, we will ask that you speak to the senator
Yeah, I'll step out
out in the
if that would be
hallway,
preferable.
and, so that we don't try to hold up our time right here. I think Councilwoman Sawicki was first.
All right, very quick. Thank you, first of all, for being here, Senator. You had brought up the idea of recycling and the bottle bill expansion. I know the state of Michigan has done a push in terms of encouraging recycling. We've had a number of our residents and several of us on council very concerned about getting recycling back into the community. We had to stop our recycling because our recycler was taking stuff to the regular dump. They were not recycling. And with the state of Michigan doing this push on recycling, I know my family takes it to a place in Detroit, where they will handle this. Has anything been said, or can we push the state on processing centers so that we can start actually recycling our glass, our metal, or plastics again?
So part of that was in the initial bottle bill discussions, and you would think that these would not be as complicated as they are, but they have been extremely complicated. If you have an idea about what it would take for the city to get its recycling program back up, I'd be happy to engage and try and see if that's something that we can come up with an answer for. But from my understanding, the biggest challenge with recycling to this point is in the quality of materials to be recycled and the value or lack thereof in them. And so as we're dealing with, the pandemic, I think that some of those metrics have changed a little bit. So there's certainly opportunity to do that. But it just has not been a huge statewide priority in that most folks are doing that in their trash space. Although it continues to be a larger priority as we talk about decreasing our carbon footprint in the space. So I know that there is some talk about it. It hasn't been super tangible to this point.
All right, maybe we'll get with you then
By all
on
means.
that, because I know we want to get our recycling back. And I know a number of our residents and a number of us do, the cleaning our products, taking them down to the recycling centers that exist. But it just seems like there's not places to process that material once they're turned in. So, thank you.
Do you know how much it would be?
To
So do you know how much
create a
your
processing
do you know
center?
how much your program costs? Like how much more it would cost per resident, or to cost the city to provide the service?
It'd be in the neighborhood of probably about 200,000 a year.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Pius.
Councilwoman Sawicki and Senator Ollier answered my questions for the most part, but about the cost it would be to the community. We were paying the cost before. The residents were glad to pay the cost for it. It's just that what they were paying for wasn't happening. So I think it's not so much the cost as how, well, you had said how different materials cost different amounts for each recycler. I know for a while, bottles were worth nothing basically, so they weren't accepting bottles so much. Things like that happened. But I had also wondered about anything being done on the state level, have like a state mandate on recycling. But it sounds from what you say that that's going to be a long way off, and that right now you're looking more at the materials and, well, it sounds like just the materials, just like having a bottle bill. But if we don't have recycling, then it's not going to help
Yeah, but
Yeah,
so
we need to
much.
process
from my
those
understanding,
materials.
from my understanding, the challenge with the bottle bill is the most profitable piece of the stream are the bottles. And so that's why it's hard for communities, particularly smaller communities, to do recycling, because the thing that has the most value is the thing that's not in the stream.
Right, right. Okay, thank you.
Do you want Cheryl to speak before you do?
Sure.
Okay.
Legacy costs. Is there any way we can get a piece of that pie to help us? I mean, we're not the only city that's
Yeah.
dealing with legacy costs.
I don't want to, I hate to be political in that space, but it's something that Republicans and Democrats have really been trying to iron out. It is something that Republicans, particularly in the House, have been morally opposed to helping local communities with their legacy costs, but have been really trying to double down on the state investing in MERS and MIPSers and things like that to make sure that they are shored up in a more just faster right now that we have some degree of dollars. Like, I don't want to say we have a surplus, but we have more money now than we have ever had, and we brought in more money in every sense of the word than anyone was expecting. So, you know, as we look at, like, for example, the gas tax or things like that, so you've heard those discussions. We raised more in the first quarter of the year on sales tax on fuel than we were than we were projecting for the entire year, because we were projecting at $2 or just under $2, and so the cost has gone up so much more that it's brought more money in. So there are certainly the dollars to invest in some of these programs. There is just not the political will to do it, particularly because the way the legislature is constituted, they would consider that bailing out Democratic communities.
Let me know who they are, I'll shake them down.
Well, the first person to start with will be Tom Albert, the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, and so, you know, that's really where we've been at on those particular issues. I think I was also remiss in not discussing the gas tax discussion. So you've also seen a lot of discussion about the two options for gas tax. So Michigan is one of just a handful of states that has two fuel taxes. So you pay a per volume fuel tax, the motor fuel tax, and that is those are the dollars that are tacked to the bonding to fix roads. And so when we go out and bond as a state for roadway funding, it is matched with, hey, we have levied this gas tax, and as a result, we will always have the revenue to pay back these bonds, which is why the governor vetoed the legislation that Republicans pushed through the House and the Senate, because it would have put in danger the bonds to fix the roads. You saw Senator Jim Ananich, the Democratic minority leader, propose and the governor support a sales tax on fuel holiday. And as I said earlier, we've already raised pretty close to that amount, and I don't want to say it's gravy, but it is the addition on the space, and it is not actually spent on roads. It's spent on local revenue sharing and school revenue sharing. And all of those dollars are already up from where they would have been expected. And that's the cost that you really pay. So, you know, imagine when gas is $1, you pay 6 cents. If gas is $4, you pay in 24 cents per gallon. So it makes it significantly more expensive in a quicker way.
Okay. Yes.
I have one more question. Excuse me. So you're just talking about the gas tax here. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, part of the thinking had been we'd give everybody a break on the taxes, and then that would be covered by ARPA funds, I believe?
So you can't actually use ARPA funds to to cut back on the thing. We just don't. I don't want to say we don't need the money, because government's never like, oh no, we don't need your money. But we budgeted for a certain amount to be raised from the sales tax.
Right.
We will not miss it because the price of gasoline has gone up so much.
That's-
So that's why we've proposed it in that way, compared to the motor fuel tax, where if gas is $1 or $20, it doesn't make a significant difference. And the other issue is that on average, it would have been a $75 return to folks, which reminds me, if I could just have one more minute to remind folks that because of the auto insurance reform that we worked on 2 years ago, one of the things that I was a leader on, everyone should be receiving a $400 return back based on the catastrophic claims. And so that is per car you had basically by Halloween. So if you had a car insured on Halloween of last year, you would receive $400. If you had 5 cars, you would receive $2,000. But you should be receiving that by May 6th. Some people have already started to receive it. If you haven't, you should, you can certainly reach out to your individual auto insurance provider. If you switched auto insurance companies, it doesn't matter, that you're still going to get your return just as long as you had auto insurance in the space. We've also seen a significant uptick in the number of people who have auto insurance. So since the reforms have happened, 155,000 more people have auto insurance today in the state of Michigan than did previously, 66,000 of which did not have auto insurance for 3 years prior. And so we've seen significant impact in that. People who change nothing, right? So if you maintain the current level of coverage that you previously had, on average, people have saved 25% statewide. And if you opted completely out of personal injury protection, on average, you're saving about 65,000, or you're saving 65%. So you've seen significant savings, which has had real impacts for most folks across the state. Thank you.
If there's no further questions, well, we thank you very much.
Of course.
Senator, and don't be a stranger.
I won't.
Thank you. All right. Right now, we have a presentation from Dr., well, I always say Dr. McGee, but Mr.
Close,
Stephen
close.
McGee. Have you got that doctorate yet?
I'll be down in May. I'm real close. First of all, my name is Stephen McGee. I'm the superintendent of schools of the Harperwood School District. Going into my 5th year. It's
Our
great to.
speakers are not working.
Okay, let me speak up then. That
Yeah.
classroom
You gotta
voice.
use your theater voice today.
There's no problem. Stephen McGee, superintendent of schools of the Harperwood School District. I'm going into my 5th year. I'm honored to be here in front of the city council. I see some familiar faces. Mr. Toussaint, Mr. Constantino, the mayor itself, and also our city manager. We've had an opportunity to be in some of the same spaces. I'm here today to give you an open invitation to come and visit our schools. At any given time, you don't even have to go through my office. Just let the principal know, the building level leader. What do they say? Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see, and 100% of what you experience. So I offer you the opportunity to come and experience what your school district looks like. He said something with Langston Hughes. He said, "Make America America again." Not what it is, but what it has an opportunity to become. You know, that organizations are organic. They're constantly growing. And the school district has done that over the years. We've grown. When I came to the district, we had 1,468 students. We have a little bit less than 2,700 now. We've grown. That number is really because of the middle school. The middle school was located in the high school. We had 260 middle school students inside of the high school, and the high school has a capacity of over 1,150 in terms of numbers, okay? Once we opened up the new middle school, which is an international baccalaureate middle school, it's not just an average middle school. It's international baccalaureate as well as career pathways. That those 260 students moved into the middle school, and then we added another 225 or so. We've been able to maintain those numbers. That allowed the high school to grow from 6 to that of 8, relatively 825 or 840 or so. And we've been able to maintain the numbers within the elementary school. Harper Woods is one of the only schools in the state of Michigan that did not lose 20% of its general overall population of students. They were able to maintain it across the board. We opened up our new CCI Center 4 years ago. Within that CCI Center, you have graphic arts, digital animation and design, radio, television and film, computer system networking, cybersecurities, and a full culinary arts program with a restaurant on the inside. Please note that all 5 of those disciplines are within the top 25 in terms of economics within the state of Michigan. Students graduate from there with a certification. We are adding esports. We'll have a grand opening for esports, which deals with gaming and 21st century as well as software development within the next 2 weeks or so. I'm going to make sure that we send you that invitation. But one of the original programs is construction trades. Construction trades for the Harperwood School District will be completed by the middle of August, going into the end of August. So that means that some of the dilapidated buildings, that houses that are on Kelly, Some houses that may be empty here in Harper Woods, they can become the testing ground and proving ground for our students in moving forward. The district has changed. Most definitely, it has changed. And I've looked at the numbers itself, but the world has changed, and we're going to continue to move forward. We also have implemented what we call Meta Labs, 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade. Meta Labs focuses on students developing a digital business portfolio, as well as they're learning about the stock market, Standards and Poor's. They're learning about Bitcoins, NFTs, but more so than anything else, they're shifting their mindset from being a consumer to a producer. We as a people consume over $1.5 trillion with no return. And no disrespect, the African American community is one of the only cultures that do that. That has to stop. You have to have enough courage to say that has to stop. When does it stop? It stops with this generation, okay? Knowing that if a 5th grader starts a business, what will he or she be doing by the time they get to the 7th grade? What will be their mindset by the time they get to the 9th grade? Of course, we offer honors courses. We offer dual enrollment, but we also offer a Synergen degree that focuses on students' 9-12 associate's degree program, where the students will graduate with a high school diploma, a career pathway certification, and an associate's degree, all in one. It's never been done before. This is the first location. And no, we don't have 60 students in the classroom, because if they did, they would have taken out 60 cameras, 60 phones, and would have been on Instagram, TikTok, and all these other social medias. So I invite you out again. This is not a long presentation for me, to come and see for yourself. You don't have to call me. I'm not going to stage it for you. Come and see for yourself. And that's the premise of community, that it's a collective effort, that you collaborate, that you synergize. It's another thing, I got some messages about cars that are blocking some of the driveways on Anita Street. We do have a personnel shortage, but one of the things that we really wanted was to have an official authority from our local police department to be a part of that process. We know there are shortages there. I had collective conversations with the chief prior to his departure, so my door is always open. I'm here to synergize, I'm here to collaborate in order to build our community. I've been fortunate enough to have a great board, and they've allowed me to be here, and I contend and intentfully will be an asset, not a liability. It's time if you have any questions for me.
All right. Is there any questions of Mr. McGee? Yes.
I just want to thank you for being here, because I have heard a number of rumors, and hearing this from you, it really fills me with confidence that our schools are going in a good direction. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I want you to come and see for yourself. When you see those students in those Meta Labs, now mind you, we're so used to traditional instruction, okay? The classrooms still look the same from the 1930 to 1940 to they're still in rows. We shifted over to academic clusters a while back. That's called the M6. But what if you take those classrooms and you turn them into economic labs? You turn them into career labs, where the students have an opportunity to come in to actually get to work. If you're going into law, it's better to hear it from a lawyer. If you're going into logistics and transportation, it's better to hear it from the practitioner. If you're going into engineering, it's better to hear from an engineer. I don't see students knocking down a door to go to English and math and science and social studies. None of us did. It's not happening now. So we have to engage the children where we are and take them where they need to be. And that's that level of being a 21st century, next generation readiness. I have 25 corporations that are willing to have practitioners come to Harper Woods in the fall to help educate our children alongside teachers. We have to work that out with our HWEA in order for that to happen, but we're moving in a congruent direction. I know and I have full confidence that it's going to happen, but it's just going to take some collaboration. But the last thing that I want to say is this. On every Friday, we have a number of events. One of them is the Grab and Go at the CCI Center, and that's sponsored by our Culinary Arts Department. Our own students are preparing food. come by. It's from 11, I think, until 1 on Fridays. And grab a bite to eat, you know, and see how they're doing. My son, Malachi, is a part of that program. I transferred my son from Novi Schools to Harper Woods. So why would you do that? That's one of the, listen, schools are like that of clothes that you put on. Sometimes they fit and other times they don't. He could go to school anywhere. I chose Harper Woods for him. My oldest son graduated from the school that he was in. He's at Alabama A&M University now. He's doing fine, but my Malachi is here with me. I have enough confidence in the educational system that I'm going to educate my own child here. And my wife feels the same way. So,
Bravo.
any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
What percentage of students are school of choice program?
So mind you, the School of Choice program has grown since I've been there. But for the last 2 years, it's been like a 70-30, more so 70% residential and 30% from outside. The one thing that I will say is this, is that in 2004, you had the financial crisis, which everyone knew about that. This past year was the first time that the district in the history of Harper Woods was able to pay off a $1.5 million legacy that was paid out to teachers in their pension. They didn't have to get a loan from the state of Michigan. We didn't have to get a loan from the state of Michigan. Now, mind you, that loan goes to every school district within the state of Michigan. We turned it down because we were able to pay for that, and we'll be able to continue to pay for that, in moving forward. Harper Woods has become one of the most preferred districts, within our area. We didn't lose that 20%. But I also know with the addition of the esports program, the T-shirt that I commissioned to be made, it says Harper Woods, looking for 300 gamers. A nerd today, but you'll run the world tomorrow. The opportunities are endless. They're here. And then with the work that you all have done with North Point and the mall being torn down and the new construction that's there, it's going to become a focal point. How do we handle that focal point?
Are there any further questions? Yes.
Yes, I want to thank you for being here also this evening. And I've had the opportunity of working with you and doing some programs with the students and with our even own judicial system. And definitely been easy to work with you. And I really appreciate your philosophy, this 21st century learning, because technically what you're doing, the way technology has changed and all that, we're almost kind of preparing students for jobs that really don't even exist yet.
Exactly.
So you kind of keep that, and you kind of got the right philosophy on that. So I'm proud that you are superintendent of our
And the premise with that is that you prepare them to write the plans that have not been written, to take the jobs that have not been created. But the flip side of that, as a consumer, you have a labor side, and then you as a producer, you fall off into entrepreneurship. It's something about making money while you sleep. That's appealing to our children. There's something about that, about land acquisition, about corporate and residential acquisition, and that's what we have to move into. So yes, it's a little different.
Two things. Number one, I wanted to know what events you have coming up. I know we can go at any time, but like any special events
Let me
you have
look.
coming
Let me
up?
grab my phone right here.
And then, question number two, I've heard that you are doing some upgrades to the middle school. And I don't know if you're doing upgrades to some of the other schools, but what can we look forward to with those upgrades?
Well, of course, when I came to the district, they were just putting in air conditioning for Beacon and Tyrone. So the middle school will be receiving air conditioning as well as windows. We have to do an upgrade as far as the electricity within the building, and that process is underway as we speak. Also, there will be some upgrades within the high school as well, and some upgrades at the elementary school as far as windows. So to keep up that, and I can say this confidently, generally when you make those type of upgrades across the board, now mind you, so we've opened up a new middle school, okay? It's the International Baccalaureate Middle School. We also opened up the CCI Center. We also opened up a new central office. Generally, when you do those things, you have to go back to the community and ask for what? A bond issue. You have to ask for more money. I haven't come to you with that. I don't intend to. I'm going to be an asset as long as I'm here. So I'm looking at this calendar here. We have a Mother's Day program that's coming up. I believe it's going to be on the 30th. And don't hold me to it. What I'm going to do is send it, have Mrs. Smith send it to you, my secretary, my executive secretary. But the students are kind of preparing for that. Yeah, before, yeah, it's before.
Yeah.
So on that day, it's going to be almost like a spa day, as well as that of food for those 50 or 55 that will be attending. They have to RSVP, of course. There will be some other events that are coming up. I'm going to just send them directly to you before I give you a room date. Okay.
And also on that grab and go you have, what day is that, from 11 to 2? Is that every day or just Friday, or?
That's every Friday. Or every Friday. Yeah.
Delicious.
And what it's generally, it's a grab and go. But on this event for Mother's Day, we're hoping, based on the lower contagion level, that it'll be face to face. So we're working with that as well. I'm really excited about the esports program. It is a pilot program itself, but that esports program will dwarf every program that we have within the district. I promise you that. When you see your grandchild or your child or your great-grandchild and they're in that room and they're doing this, and you're wondering what they're doing and who are they talking to, at 9 o'clock at night, and they're talking to someone in Japan, or they might be in California, you know, that gaming process and that mindset and how they think, you know, it's a lot of weight and leverage with the number of followers that you have. So when you start talking about gaming development and software development, and also the competition, over in California off the West Coast, there are multiple universities that offer scholarships. Well, now we have some of those same offerings here in the state of Michigan. So our direct partner for esports is that of Oakland University. The minimum scholarship, you're talking to me close to $30,000, you know, and upwards for children of color as well as young ladies who are going off into that field. Those are the individuals that will be flying drones. Those are the individuals that are moving into what we call next generation readiness in terms of education. So yes, I know you hear things. Come and see for yourself. And I'll be back.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
Are there any other questions?
All right.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. McGee, for coming. I appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you know that there's an open door for you to come here at
Oh,
any
yes,
time,
ma'am.
as well as it's been for me to go to the board. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I know that you guys have busy schedules, so you won't hurt my feelings if you have to get up and leave. Okay, all right. We need an approval of the minutes. I need a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'll
Councilwoman
offer-
Sawicki?
I'll offer a motion to accept, receive, and file the regular city council meeting held March 21st, 2022, to receive and file the library board meeting February 24th, 2022, the Board of Review meeting March 14th of 2022, and the Planning Commission meeting March 23rd of 2022.
Support.
Okay, any discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Does the beautification commission send us minutes generally?
They haven't yet.
They haven't yet?
Right.
Okay. Because I remember being at both the beautification meeting and the planning commission meeting on the same night. So, all right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are there any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and public comment on agenda items only. So if you have anything on the agenda that you wanted to speak to, please speak now. All right, seeing none. Consent agenda, I need a resolution.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Councilman Jennings?
I would like to make the resolution to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Support.
Support by Councilwoman Constantino. Discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman Sawicki?
Quick question for the acting city manager about consent agenda item number 5, Goddard Coatings. It seems really high at first glance to have that cost go toward restriping and coating the tennis court and the pickleball court. When I read the support information, it gives me some justification for it. I just like the acting city manager to speak to that and whether there's a bidding process, or is this the only company that does this work? And maybe give me some idea of why that cost would be so high.
Okay, there's several different components here. As you know, it's made from petroleum, and anything made from petroleum right now is astronomically high. I want to say it's not only a surface, but it's the preparation for the surface too. It has to be, the old surface has to be taken down, cracks have to be filled, it has to be leveled, and and then the surface applied. So that's why it's so high. And William, do you have any comments you want to add to that as well?
No, you covered that fairly well, John, thank you, but I really enjoyed seeing the preparation is key to the adhesion of good surface, so while it looks like a lot, I think a lot of it's done on preparation.
Okay, is this the only company that basically does this work, or is this just,
Excuse me, no, I didn't dive into the bidding process on this, and
Right.
I think this was handled through our engineers, so
Okay.
they made a recommendation, they would have done the diligence with that research.
all right, thank
And we
you.
will bill it against a grant from Wayne County.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman?
I saw that our labor attorney's been put into the accounts payable listing, and the labor attorney used to be on the consent agenda. I remember at some point he was on the consent agenda.
No,
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 no.
He's just on the regular accounts payable.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Okay, roll call vote, Mrs. Franks?
Councilwoman Costantino.
Yes?
Councilman Jenny.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pies.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sawicki.
Yes,
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Okay, this takes us to old business, and since there is none, we'll move on to new business and city manager report.
Okay, Mayor and Council, item G1, Bournemouth Leslie Street replacement. Mayor and Council, attached is a memorandum from the Public Works Superintendent requesting to replace a section of pavement at Bournemouth and Leslie. As his memo states, Grosse Pointe Woods is in the process of repaving the street up to our city limits. We have worked with Grosse Pointe Woods previously on other joint ventures, and our mutual engineering firm, Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick, provided a cost analysis for our portion. I have reviewed this with him, and I concur with his recommendation that we take advantage of the street replacement on Bournemouth Road in cooperation with Grosse Pointe Woods. Mayor, a resolution is needed.
Madam
Okay.
Mayor,
Councilman Tucson?
I recommend by resolution to approve a joint and replacement project with the city of Grosse Pointe Woods for the portion of Bournemouth Road that lies within the Harperwood city limits in an amount not to exceed $14,000 if funding is available.
Support.
That was Councilwoman Pies, all right. Roll call vote. I'm sorry, any discussion?
Yeah.
No?
Discussion, yes. I'm totally in support of getting sort of road funding. So just wanted to comment on that, yes.
All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please, Mrs. Franks.
Councilman Jenny.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pies.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sawicki.
yes,
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Costantino.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes.
Okay, item G2, establish public hearing dates for special assessment district. Mayor and Council, The City of Harper Woods has statutory authority to provide police and fire services to the community and impose a special assessment for providing these services under Public Act 33 of 1951. The passage of this assessment would provide a maximum of 9.875 mils for police services and 9.875 mils for fire services, for a combined total of 19.75 mils for a period of 1 year. An estimate of the projected cost of operating our police department and fire department, combined with the legacy cost of police and fire retirees for 2022, has been provided for your review. As one can easily determine, it costs the city well over $7.7 million to provide these services each year. Currently, our city operating millage brings in roughly $4 million in tax revenue each year, creating a shortfall of approximately $3.7 million each year. To fill this budget gap and maintain the current staffing levels of police officers and firefighters, it is once again necessary to ask our city council to approve, renew the 9.875 mil assessment for police and the 9.875 mil assessment for fire. Therefore, it is my recommendation that we schedule the necessary public hearings. Mayor, a motion is needed.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilwoman Pies.
I'll offer by motion to schedule a public hearing on April 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of receiving public comment on the continuation of a special assessment district, and further to schedule a second public hearing on May 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of reviewing the effect of the special assessment on the tax roll, and further that the city clerk publish a notice of these in accordance with the city charter requirements.
Support.
Support by Councilwoman Sawicki. Discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
at this public hearing, I hope to hear from the acting city manager how much longer he believes we're going to have to keep doing this, because I know that all of us have wanted to see this amount go down, and I know we're hoping that with new development in the community, we might be able to start seeing our assessments, going back down. So I'm hoping to get some concept, some idea
Clarification,
of
yeah.
what we can expect in the future at these hearings. Thank you.
Sure. We'll have
All right.
something.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the city manager's report.
Okay. Okay. All right, call the audience. You have an opportunity to identify yourself, and you can speak for 3 minutes, please. Okay, Mr. Kadam.
Mike Cadet, Lockmore Street. Just a couple short comments. Regarding the city's financial situation has been kind of in dire straits for a while. And I noticed that we also have 14 paid holidays in the calendar. And this seems to be pretty excessive. I don't know of many private businesses who can afford anywhere near 14 paid holidays. And for instance, our rubbish collection, GFL, has, I believe, 6 days holiday. And so for a city that has taxable and financial problems, 14 days paid holidays, and 2 were just recently added, and this just seems to be excessive. I know of very few or any private businesses could sustain 14 days paid holidays. Okay, so that's my comment on that. The other comment I wanted to make was about the Poupard redevelopment. I see in the Insider that they're talking about townhouses and and duplexes in the range of $225,000 to $300,000. This seems to be out of line with the values of the homes in the immediate area. And also there seems to be what will be a striking architectural contrast between the new development and the existing housing. And furthermore, if we're going to put a price of $225,000 or $300,000 to $300,000 range on these townhouses and duplexes, this will result in a property tax of about $10,000 plus a year. I don't know of anybody that is going to buy a townhouse in that area and incur a $10,000 a year plus tax bill. So I think we have a little wishful thinking on this development. I think maybe we should rethink some of this proceedings before we go too far with it. And so I don't think it's viable to ask, say, $250,000 for a townhouse or duplex and incur a $10,000 plus tax bill every year. Maybe there's buyers willing to do that. I don't know. I'm not in the real estate business, but it just seems to be a little bit out of character or just not financially viable. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Hold up, Mr.
Yeah.
Padilla. City manager, acting city manager would like
Okay.
to somewhat address a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, Danbury Lane was also created.
Yeah, that's a
And the
special.
houses on the area was not really.
But the houses surrounding Poupard are not in the $225,000 to $300,000 range.
Yeah.
That's,
I'd like to just shoot a couple of comments.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, in first talking about the paid holidays. Okay, most of the days are national holidays. Okay, everybody gets them off. As far as public employees are concerned versus private
Right.
employees, which you mentioned, public employees don't get stock option bonuses. They don't get profit sharing. There's a lot of things in the private sector given as incentives that I want to say public employees don't get. So when the unions come to the table, they have very good, I want to say, cases to get those benefits because they're given by other communities. And if we're not competitive with the other communities, the employees leave. We've had a whole slew of police officers leave within last year, about 8 of them, because other communities are just paying more, offering other incentives. Now, in regards to Poupard redevelopment, those houses are probably going to be anywhere between $275,000 and $300,000 because of the cost. They're also going to be paired with a tax program from the state of Michigan called a NEZ, a Neighborhood Enterprise Zone. There's also going to be a brownfield redevelopment paired with that development. I want to say we have an empty building there right now that is going to be a nuisance violation. It's not owned by us. It's an old school building. It's going to be torn down. We have had professional studies, professional builders coming in, and it will attract millennial-type buyers into that area, and paired with the NEZ program, the monthly payment to get into those condos, not condos, but they will actually be row townhouses, beautiful townhouses too. They will be paying a little more than what rental payments are right now. So they're gonna have 15 years to step up into the full taxation of the city, and hopefully with all the development going on in the city, we're gonna be winding down the mills on the PA 33 assessment. We already knocked it down a quarter of a mill, which is not much, but it's going in the right direction. Last year it was 20 mils. This year it's 19.75. We have some things coming up in the future that we're looking to relieve taxes on the community. And all the properties that are gonna be surrounding that development are all gonna be going up in value. And that has been a study taken by real estate developers, the state of Michigan, and everything. So this is not a willy-nilly development that's going on. It's very sound, it's got very good backing behind it, and just wait till it's built.
Okay.
You'll change your mind, Mr.
Well,
Knapp. You really will.
I just think that you're talking $275,000. Mortgage rates are 4.6% or roughly so.
They're cheaper than that.
And interest rates are probably going to increase, but I just don't know if you can get that kind of price in that neighborhood, considering are all the other houses worth $275,000? I don't think so. It would be nice if they were, I suppose, but it just seems that the price point is beyond what the neighborhood would. Do you really want to have the most expensive house in the neighborhood? I mean, you could probably buy one of the other houses there for a lot less than $275,000. And you'd have a single-family home, not an attached townhouse. So I don't know. I hope it works out. I mean, I don't want to, I think this is, redeveloping this is a great idea, but I just worry about the pricing of this whole development. Now, it's great. It's a wonderful thing if we can get a tax, property tax abatement on the people that purchase these properties. But I still think that the price point is, when you're talking $275,000, right now a lot of people are locked out of the housing market because the prices of homes have gone up so much and mortgage interest rates have gone up. And so I don't have an answer for this, but I just think that the price point is just very, very high. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Mike,
Knapp.
to John's point, and the housing values in that area, what we've looked at, so a rising tide raises all ships.
Okay, if there are any other residents first. Mr. Kadat, I'm sorry. I have you on the brain, Mr. Kadat.
Good evening. Really kind of short. First of all, I want to applaud you on that deal. He may not think it, but definitely people will pay that because it's in the Grosse Pointe school system, and that's what's going to carry it. Most houses go up in value in that particular area because it is the Grosse Pointe school system. The other thing is, we're doing all these repairs on roads. And has anybody looked at Lansdowne between Woodside and Elkhart? They keep having to come out and patching and patching and patching and patching and patching. Whoever did the job last time, it only lasted like a year and a half, 2 years, and all they did was the center section. So now you got people trying to go over this way and over that way to keep from running on it. But it is something that needs to be looked at and fixed. It's deteriorating even more, and that's kind of what I'm asking. And that in a small section down by Beaconsfield on Roscommon. That asphalt is starting to fall apart there. They did up a little ways, but they didn't go up and do what was asphalted before. Take a run by it, you'll see what I mean. As you turn onto Roscommon going towards Kelly, about the first house, almost to the first house, or just past the first house, is asphalt. And it's slowly falling apart, getting chuck holes. Oh, the other thing, speaking of chuck holes, who is responsible for the 2 driveways up there at Home Depot? Now, I know the other one in back of it, by the schools, that's the new company coming in. Is they responsible for that one?
They're gonna be putting a new road up there.
Okay. Even between Mickey D's and
Yeah, that, between that and where the CCI Center is, all of that is gonna be new construction. You know, but it's not gonna happen tomorrow.
Oh, I understand that. I just wondered who was responsible for it. Is it the new company that's
Yes.
gonna do it?
They're gonna be doing a whole new road there.
Okay, because it's getting worse, and I mean, it's really getting worse. And I've been told that unless someone pays for it, they can't come in and patch it even. And if you go over there and look at those, some of those, they need some big patches, at least until it's done.
Yes, I agree. That's private property and, like I said, that's on North Point's, drawing board, so to speak.
Okay, because
They
I
are
thought,
gonna get it.
I thought the CCI, McDonald's, they say, and Home Depot would be responsible for those 2 driveways. Now, the one in back of, the one in back of Home Depot, you know, the company. But those 2, I mean, they should be responsible by them because the customers go through those 2 driveways for sure. Thank you.
Are there any other residents that would like to speak?
I'm not a resident, but I'd like to speak.
Huh?
I'm not a resident, but I'd like to speak.
Okay, you can go ahead, Jim.
Good evening, Mrs. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, City Clerk, City Attorney. I'm Jim Wilpalm. I am the building official for the City of Harper Woods. Just a couple quick notes. As we all know, the mall is starting to come down. We've issued demo permits for the Target store, which was built onto the mall after the original footprint of the mall. So it didn't have a basement, and it was easy to issue a partial permit on that. And then the Starter's Restaurant, a freestanding building, they're finishing that up probably even tomorrow. The mall itself still is lacking clearance on the electric, so I'm staying on top of that. They're running into a bit of additional asbestos abatement in there. So there's going to be some time involved with that before the whole mall comes down. I was approached by the general contractor that's going to do most of the concrete work at the mall. And they are proposing to see if they can put a batch plant on the property to produce the concrete that is going to go into the installation of all the flat work, footings, foundation. I'm in favor of it. I've discussed it with a couple other people in the city, the DPW director, and we feel it's something that really should be considered. It would limit the amount of cement trucks coming to and from that site. They would just be nonstop. There would be gravel on Vernier Road coming off the trucks. As much as you try to clean them, it's never foolproof. The location of where they want to put the batch plant, they have not specified where they would like to put it. I know that the DPW has given them permission to put or to use the fire hydrants on the south side of the building.
What side?
The south side facing the high school. So they do need water. So if they continue to use those 2 hydrants, I would think that the batch plant would be on the south side. I haven't really asked them if they had a preference. I'm just kind of glancing at the overall site and where it could be and be out of the way of the structures that are going to be built. So obviously, we did not give them permission to do this yet. Obviously, they're not mixing concrete tomorrow. So it's something that everybody needs to be aware of, and we need to make a collective decision if we're going to allow them to do this and where. Furthermore, on the south side of that building, getting to this gentleman's
issue with the roads back there. That road is horrendous. You can't even go 4 miles an hour on the road that goes from Kelly Road to Beaconsfield over there. I would suggest whoever has the power to do it, and it's probably a collective group of people, that that road should be closed down. I think it could be left open behind the Home Depot, the concrete area, even though there does need to be some patching down there, up to Eastland Drive. And then that fencing should be extended at that point, keeping people from going all the way to Beaconsfield. And when you come in off of Beaconsfield, I know they picked the kids up. I was hoping this gentleman would still be sitting here from the school, but I know there's a certain amount of traffic they need to pick kids up at that end. I think we could create a loop where the old bus stop used to be there and let them come in a little bit and make a loop, and it would limit the amount of patching we would have to do, either the city, North Point, whoever. But the road through the back it's not worth patching. I think it needs to be closed down. That's just my professional opinion. I can't go 4 miles an hour through there, and when I do, I'm in this configuration. Furthermore, at Eastland, the property is fenced in. I've talked to North Point about the debris that's starting to accumulate on the fencing. I told them, you know, every 2 weeks to 3 weeks at least, you gotta go over there and clean the fencing out. If this project lasts 2 years, we don't want 2 years of debris up against the cyclone fence. Another subject in regards to debris is we get a lot of complaints about rats in the city, and obviously there's a problem because we get a lot of complaints. We also get a lot of complaints about blowing trash, debris, and we also get a lot of complaints about people that do not keep their garbage cans or bags or stuff behind the house. The city ordinance on the garbage cans is they should not be visible from the street. I had a complaint on the 21,000 block of Huntington last week, and I went over there, and I could write 20 properties on a block and a half. So my point being, and I live in a municipality where they did have a rodent problem, and they came out with the larger green receptacles, and I know it's a fee study that needs to be done because it would be, you know, they don't do it for free, but it would eliminate the rats, it would eliminate the eyesore of people that just throw the bags out the side door on the driveways. On any given day, on the trash days in this city, you drive down the boulevards and half the bags got squirrels and birds and whatever picking through them, and the stuff starts blowing down the street, and it's just, you know, and this rat thing, everybody, how are we gonna get rid of it? That's the only way you're gonna get rid of it, in my eyes. I mean, just thinking you're gonna get some cooperation between 5 neighbors here and 10 neighbors here to poison and not poison someone's dog, that is, in my eyes, the answer. Whether it's financially something the city can do, that's up to you. But, I mean, you're asking me to help you out with the situation, and I lived in a municipality and I had them. And I always kept my stuff in garbage cans or this or that, but they were burnt. And next thing you know, the city came out with the cans. Within 6 months, they were gone. So just something to think about. Safe Built, the building department, we did hire another building inspector. He is licensed Act 407 with the state of Michigan, but most importantly, we brought him on board to help with the ordinance work. We know you guys want certain things taken care of. In the next few months, we're going to be, I don't want to say targeting, but we're going to be looking at the ordinance in regards to people with RVs, boats, and what have you not, them type of recreational vehicles stored in the front yard.
Right.
Should be stored in the side yard or in the rear yard. There is a little glitch in there. If it's stored within no closer than 25 feet from the sidewalk in the front yard, that is legal. In regards to the ordinances in general, we just came through a winter that we kind of lucked out on the snow. We only had one real snowfall that we went and tagged houses. We did not write an overabundance of tickets. I myself went down Eastwood and I did all of Kelly Road. And on one day, I tagged 38 properties on Kelly Road that did not shovel the little sidewalk in front of their commercial building. The next day, I went back, out of 38 tagged properties, only 3 were not shoveled. So just the tagging alone worked, did not cost the city additional funds for us taking them to court. The snow ordinance before next winter, I think, needs to be addressed, because in years past, the DPW kind of did the tagging of the houses, and then they took pictures, and then you had to go back and issue tickets, and this year, we kind of took it over a little bit. But it's a large task. It's a big city to try to cover with a handful of guys, whether they're from the DPW or the building department. The other thing is issuing the tickets. So many people think that, you know, you see a house that has a snow-covered walkway and you can just go up and put a ticket on the storm door. Doesn't work that way. You cannot write a ticket unless you have a driver's license. So if it's a rental house, you don't even really know who the renter is unless you get their license plate and run them through the Clemis system, which the building department does not have. The police department would, but. And then if it's a LLC-owned property, a lot of times when people come in and file a property transfer affidavit, they're not required by the state of Michigan to show a driver's license. And half the time, they have I don't want to say a crony, but let's just say somebody beneath them in their organization drop off the paperwork. They drop it off, out the door they go. So we don't even know who the primary owner of that LLC or chief financial officer, however you want to word it, is. So when we have to write a ticket, there's a lot of research that goes into it. You know, we got to start Googling people, and it could take a half a day to find one person. And when you got 250 tickets or possible tickets for snow or garbage cans, it's not as easy as you think to write tickets. But let's get back to the snow thing. Kind of needs to be looked at and how we're going to address that this next year. What else do we got here? Talked about Gabriel Townsend, our new worker. That's about it. I would strongly suggest the closing of that road, though. That needs to be addressed. Somebody's going to get killed back there. The only thing I could see that it would be that somebody like the public safety director may speak on it. The fire department or the police department is trying to get to like Home Depot, the gas station, the school over there. They say McDonald's. But in all reality, if you just went down Eastwood to Kelly and took a right, it's probably your fastest route anyway. You're not going to make no time going through that parking lot, trust me. You'll be buying a new fire truck. In regards to the 2 roads that are back there, the overall layout of Eastland at one time, way before my time, or birth, was quite large. So the Lowe's building, the Home Depot building, they say McDonald's, those are all, I'm assuming, parcels that got sold over a period of time because they weren't using that much parking lot. So the division of where the property lines are still a little sketchy. I was approached from the owner of They Say just the other day. He wants to resurface the road from Eastland Drive behind They Say, McDonald's, the gas station separating the school. That is going to take place. He's in trying to talk with McDonald's because the way that appears to be laid out is They Say and McDonald's ended up capturing that road with the lot split. The one behind Home Depot, I haven't got into that one too much. That one is mostly concrete. I think with some coal patch, that would not be something that it needed to be totally redone. But I agree. Those 2 roads they're tough.
Mr. Excuse me.
Okay, so anyway, we are looking at them road issues. The one though behind from Home Depot all the way to Beaconsfield there, that ain't even worth using. So I'm not sure whose jurisdiction or blessing we have to have the contractor extend the fence, but it should be done. And what I'm thinking is that may be the appropriate location for a batch plant because it gives you that big loop of the parking lot back there. Other than that, everything seems to be running pretty smooth. Permits are steady, the rentals are steady. We're getting out of the everybody playing the COVID card from 2020 to 2021. You know, people not letting us in the houses, to saying they can't get a hold of contractors, to materials. That's finally kind of passing us. We still are lingering with some people that are dragging their feet from 2021 registrations, but we're staying on them. And at any given time, anybody wants to talk to me, I'm at the building department Monday through Thursday. And once Eastland starts kicking off, I'm sure I'm going to be here on Fridays and Saturdays doing inspections. So that's all for right now.
Okay. Anyone on council got any particular question they need to speak to Mr. LaConsman? No?
Did you, yeah, one
All
question.
right. Thank
Did
you
ever
very
look? Well, I thought you called me.
Yes, go
Did you
ahead.
ever look at that road where you first, right off of, Vernier, that goes right when you wanna go to those, the dollar store? Cause that entrance there is like full of holes right there too, and I hardly could get in there. Is that?
Yeah, that's all being
Eastland.
addressed right now.
That's Eastland Drive.
The DPW has said that they would help out, but, you know, they're limited with the amount of people they have, and I don't feel that the DPW should be doing that. We should be getting the contractor to do that. If it's their property, it's their property. They need to maintain it. They're gonna be bringing equipment in, and they're gonna be bringing trucks in that, you know, but I think, let's first get that one road out of the picture back there, because that's, and then we can kind of concentrate on what roads are gonna be accessible. Obviously, that entrance coming in there, yes, that needs to be addressed.
Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, one quick thing. I know, Mr. LaPalme, when you're looking at a place in that whole footprint for a batch plant, I have a little concern putting it anywhere near the school. There's a lot of open space back there, and I'm hoping, because, you know, there are some concerns with air pollution, with noise,
Yeah.
you know, with
I
diesel trucks or whatever,
No,
being
I
too
totally-
near to
I
the school.
totally agree. They just kind of came to me within this last few days. So just kind of letting you know it's coming. I want to see where, you know, because certain areas may work better for them as far as the layout of the whole property in general. So let's see what they come up with. Obviously, we'll discuss it. And if we need to move it over a little bit or put it even in the front, I mean, we're,
All right.
you know.
As long as, yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make certain that we had the best interests of the community when it comes to, and I understand the desire to have that on property.
Yeah.
I certainly would agree with that, but, you know, make certain that it's in a location that's safe.
Yes, no, safety's always the first thing the building department thinks of.
Thank you.
Yes.
I remember that, the area, part of that road, I know at least behind where Home Depot is, and I don't know if it goes all the way through. I believe that was the responsibility of Wayne County. I don't know how much of that was the county and how much of it was the business.
Not anything on that Eastland property. That's all private property.
Behind Home Depot, I believe, is Wayne County.
Well, the road behind Home Depot was actually done in concrete years ago. There's some bad spots in it right now, but it would be, that's a patchable event where you could actually patch that and make it to where it's, the one behind McDonald's, and they say that needs to be redone, but they're working on that right now. And then we're gonna try to get North Point, we are going to get North Point to take care of that entrance coming off of Vernier.
All right.
Will we still have a bus stop?
No.
I'm not sure, I know there's a bus stop over there now, but I don't even know if the bus goes down through there anymore. I mean, that bus stop is for the mall, for the most part. So,
No, there's no bus stop.
I think
there
they even
anymore,
took the bus stop,
period,
the actual
at
structure of
Eastland.
the bus stop out of there. 'Cause it would have been on the other side of the containment fence.
I know a lot of our residents go to that bus stop to get to their jobs downtown. And I know a lot of the mall workers took the bus to
Yeah.
get there, but a lot of our residents
Yeah.
take the bus to go to their jobs.
So this is gonna be something that we all need to collaborate on. So that would be something, if you have some insight to that of how they exit that property, I don't really know how the bus route works through
But
that.
it'd make the most sense to put the bus stop on Vernier.
Well, it'd have to be worked out with the transportation company, I'm sure they would. But it needs to be addressed, because it's bad.
Okay.
Other than that,
Thank you.
okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, this gentleman over there, you had your hand up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, Clerk, and City Manager. My name is John Conyers III. I just came to bring greetings and say hello. I am a candidate for United States Congress in 13th Congressional District. So just wanted to say hello. Happy to talk to anyone after this meeting, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right. So no one else from the audience? All right. Oh, okay. Are you a resident of Harper Woods?
Yes, ma'am.
Please give your
LaShare
name and
Montgomery of
address.
Kenosha Street. I came back in December to address the residential parking, and it's still kind of, that issue is still kind of going on. But I've talked with the police department, the overnight parking, the blocking of my driveway. Harper
Still
Woods
blocking your
yeah,
driveway?
Yeah, the Harper Woods Police Department has been very good with coming out and issuing tickets to my two neighbors across the street, coming up in my driveway, ruining my grass, and all kind of manner. So how can we just really enforce that parking? Because every house on my street has a driveway, and I don't know why the neighbors won't park in their driveway just in front of my house with this pickup truck with all this junk on it. I have pictures. I constantly watch my Ring camera while I'm at work.
Okay.
So it's a problem.
Not to give your address because this is televised. When you get through after the meeting, would you see the acting city manager?
Sure.
And we'll get this handled. Our director, public safety director, is not here tonight, but the acting city manager will take care of it and we'll get some results for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that likes to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll start with you, Mr. Jennings.
No, just everything's going good. I mean, I like the idea of us partnering up with Grosse Pointe Woods to get some of that project done, where we border up with either it's Allard or at Bournemouth there, which is going to work out really nice. And I was looking at the how much is being done, and it's pretty much we're about 50% more than they have, so it works out well for us. So that's about it for me.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Pies.
Hi, the beautification commission will be hosting an Earth Day event. I believe it's April 23rd. We'll be doing cleanup, and that will be advertised. Also, I've gotten...
And you'll be asking you'll be putting out a flyer and everything to that effect?
They'll be putting out a flyer, right? Each member has some duties that we're following up on assignments.
Okay.
And someone is approaching both the Grosse Pointe schools and Harper Woods schools about students helping out. But we'll be following up on that. Also, I received a couple of emails from a resident. I'm sorry, I don't recall her name off the top of my head. She was here talking about rodents before, and she was suggesting an ordinance because we don't have a specific ordinance regarding rodents, and some surrounding cities do. So I just want to put that out there. That's something perhaps we can speak about at our next ordinance committee meeting, address that. And I also wanted to let everybody know here that I am a candidate for state rep for the newly districted State House 11. That's all of Harper Woods. That's St. Clair Shores north to 12 mile, I'm sorry, and parts of Detroit. While I'm on that, I'll also say that we've got a new Senate district also that Harper Woods is included in that, but it's going all along the shoreline through the points, all the way up the shoreline past Algonac, and that includes Parsons Island as well. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Zwicky.
I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Easter. That's coming up before our next meeting. And I know that, Madam Mayor, I hope you announce when the Lions Club or, you know,
Yeah,
their
well.
breakfast's gonna take place. But other than that, just stay safe. I know our numbers, for COVID have dropped pretty dramatically, but we're looking at other areas, where they're starting to rise again, so I try to keep people posted. Every Sunday now, I'm posting, on 2 of the Facebook groups, just to let people know what our numbers are looking like, and right now, they're looking pretty good. We've had 7 new cases in the last week, and that's down considerably. And so keep safe and have a wonderful Easter.
All right, thank you. Councilman Councilman Tucson. I had you on my brain, I just wrote your name down, I'm sorry.
Hey, just happy Easter to everyone also, that's all.
Okay.
I would like to know when we're going to be getting an ordinance committee meeting on the
Soon.
books. Now that we're meeting in person, I think we used to meet more frequently, but we just met for the hour before the council meeting. And that was working pretty well when we met regularly. I think it'd be a good idea to get that started back up again.
I think also, when we had the last meeting, it was on a separate day.
Yeah, that
And
doesn't
that
work.
worked so much better
You think
because we were not rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, unless we can do it something like 5 o'clock, you know, it doesn't make sense to try to do it on the same day as council meeting. So that's something, I'll be in discussions with, acting city
ordinance
manager
committee.
and see exactly which is best. But I prefer being where we just discuss ordinance and then, you know, and not going right into city council meeting. But we can see the pro and con of both of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, also being transparent, having the meeting open to the public, it's helpful for the public.
Well,
to
it's
be
still
able to-
open for the public, no matter which day we have it on. It's still open to the public, so it doesn't matter. You know, the point of it is that I've always felt real frustrated when we're having the ordinance meeting to try to rush in and get prepared for city council meeting. So, you know, I enjoyed having the last ordinance meeting where it was on a separate day. So we could discuss everything without being in time constraints. So, but that's something that we will take up with the attorney and also with the acting city manager.
It
Because,
would be nice, I concur with Ms. Pius about looking into rodent ordinances.
we have a
That's
lot of
something we could
ordinance
do.
we need to look at and regroup and make sure that we have on the book correctly. So, that's why I don't want to be in a time constraint, say, you know, an hour before a meeting and we got to hurry up and finish up. I think we have did ourselves a disservice by not being more loose.
Well, yeah, but it's also, we've done a disservice by not meeting regularly. We
Well,
should be
we-
meeting every month.
With all that said, and that is that we are all coming out of a pandemic and we are now just beginning to meet. So that's something we will discuss, and as I said, we'll get back with you guys all via email. Is there any, is that,
Well, no, in the past, the ordinance committee decided when the ordinance meetings would be,
well,
and that's how it should be.
no, it's not, because the chairperson is the acting city manager, and he is the one who
Well,
decides.
in the past, we've always been asked when it would be good to have a meeting, not
Well,
told a random day on a short notice.
well, anyway, we'll discuss that with Sharon for her availability and the acting city manager since he is the chair.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, then, I have a couple of quick things to say. First of all, the Lions Club is having their annual in-person, but you can get carry-outs at the AMVATS Hall. The Lions Pancake Breakfast will be this coming Sunday, on Palm Sunday. It's the annual day. The tickets are still $10, and that's, doesn't matter whether it's a child or not. We're just straight across $10. And there also will be, it's a breakfast, so you get sausages, pancakes, milk, coffee, and juice. So this is I think this is the 34th.
10 a.m. till.
Yeah, I think it's 34th year that we had this annual Palm Sunday breakfast, and I'm smiling and thinking about John Bernier, who was so instrumental in making this happen. But we're still at it, and I hope that everyone will at least attempt to come by and continue to serve the Lions Club, because they do so much for our community. Leader dogs, the blind, hearing aids, Goodfellow. That's why I got hooked in, was with Goodfellow. So, I'm sorry, the time is from 9 to 12?
Yes.
9 to 12. And it's at the MVets, number 57, right there on Allard and 94.
Yes.
And it's for the Grosse Pointe Harper Woods Lions Club. I'm sorry, it's the Harper Woods Grosse Pointe Lions Club, because Grosse Pointe Woods came in and joined the Harper Woods as their membership had dwindled. But if you think of serving any community group, please think of the Lions Club, because I believe now there's only 3 of us that are from Harper Woods, and the Harper Woods used to carry this club. So I would hope that people would come back and give service to the Lions Club, because it is one of the charitable clubs that everything that's earned goes into giving to the people. There is no administrative cost where, you know, $5 of your $10 go to administrative costs. No, everything goes back into the charitable account to give to the people, to serve the people. So that's what I truly appreciate about it, and that's why I'm just urging you please to support us. And with that being said, there was something else. Oh yeah. I wore this today, this black and gold, for a reason. 54 years ago, Martin Luther King was killed. I'm a graduate of King, alumni of King High School. And in honor of this great man, and your father being very actively involved in making sure his birthday was a federal holiday, and I just wanted us to do a special silence and thankful to a man that was a martyr for everybody, and he gave his life on this day 54 years ago. And I was very instrumental in part of the group of kids that made the decision to change our name from Eastern High School, which my sisters, older sisters, was just livid, but change it to Martin Luther King Junior High School Crusaders. So that's black and gold today.
Amen.
So thank you. And Mr. Jennings?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make the motion for adjournment.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.